Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss The Hunger Games, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, starring Tom Blyth, Rachel Zegler, Hunter Schafer, Jason Schwartzman, Peter Dinklage, John Andres Rivera, and Viola Davis, directed by Francis Lawrence. Now, before I get into this movie, welcome back to The Hunger Games, because I did this series while in the middle of COVID, and I was kind of cold on those movies, to be perfectly honest, but a lot cooler than like anybody could imagine. And it was hard for me to get excited for this movie for a couple of reasons, that being one of them. And the other reason, I guess, there's some story on the internet about Rachel Zegler, who, starting with Disney's Son about saying the wrong Snow White or whatever. I'm gonna judge that when I see that movie, and I'm gonna be reviewing it when I get to that remake. But we'll see how that goes, because I don't know how I feel about her yet. As I like the West Side Story remake that Steven Spielberg did that she was in, but I hated Shazam 2 with a passion. Yes, she was in that, and I don't know how to feel about her in general, but let's see how this goes. Let's get into this movie and we'll see how I like this Hunger Games, as it's a prequel to the original Jennifer Lawrence series. Let's get into it. We open 3 years before the first Hunger Games at the Rebellion, and the young Coriolanus Snow, and I'm going to call him Snow for the rest of the movie because I don't want to say his name too much, like his first name, I mean, to embarrass myself. Sees a murder for hunger with someone whom I'm guessing is his cousin, who he's hiding with. I'm guessing is his cousin Tigress. And this movie gave me such a hard time with who the characters are, as well as there are plot holes in this movie, which will be explained in the original movies, as this is part of the reason why I don't like prequels too much, is because they explained it in better movies, and this is Snow's, and I don't want to see it in a prequel. Like, they just checkmark this, checkmark that, checkmark this, checkmark that. It gets a little irritating after a while. And this is Snow, and this, as Snow's father is killed in action, and is this because of the, is any of this making sense? No. Because hell, I can't make sense of this movie, which is going to be a problem throughout. We get part one, aka the mentor, it would, and how does that make sense? I don't think I can explain it any better than this. As we move on to 10 years, we get an adult Snow, played by Tom Blyth, who I don't really know, as I've seen him as a fear child in Ridley Scott's take on Robin Hood, as I don't get evil out of this guy, which is a problem for me right off the bat. And he gets dressed for a meeting while Tigress, as an adult, played by Hunter Schafer, whom I don't also know too well, as is helping him out with his shirt. And while they live with their grandmother, and as characters, I don't really get to know them nor care about them, because, but I don't really want a longer movie than it is now, as this movie is too long. And when I get to the third act, I'll explain why, because there's a lot of editing that could be in the editing room floor by the hour and a half mark, but I'll get there. We get to the Capitol, and Snow goes to a meeting with his fellow co-capitalists, like his friend Sejanus Plinth, and that seems a little misleading as a name, played by Josh Andrus Rivera, the president, Dr. Volumnia Gao. It's spelled like Gaul, played by Viola Davis, and the game maker Dean Koska Highbottom, played by Peter Dinklage. As he explains, there are changes like the best mentor of the 10th annual Hunger Games, focused on viewers than the winners, as Snow gets a mentor, as he gets to mentor a young woman from District 12 named Lucy Gray Baird, played by Rachel Zegler, who comes off very unlikable thanks to putting a snake on the mirror of District 12's daughter's back, as she sings. And don't get me wrong, Rachel Zegler can sing, thanks to the Steven Spielberg remake of West Side Story, which I liked her in that movie, and her character comes off very unlikable, as does the other characters, as she says to District 12 to kiss her ass. And again, I don't like these characters, as their performances are terrible. Even from Peter Dinklage and Viola Davis, as they're both good actors, as they're phoning it in. And Rachel Zegler, despite the criticism of Snow White and Shazam 2, which I hated with a passion, She's a better actress than the roles they're giving to her. Snow meets with Lucy Gray as he introduces herself as her mentor and gives her a rose. And as someone tries to escape, he takes his opportunity to learn more about Lucy Gray. And as she, as well as other tributes, stay in the Capitol Zoo, and they're on live TV with Lucky Flickerman, whom I'm guessing is Caesar's father and played by Jason Schwartzman, as Snow introduces her on the TV and her mentor as her mentor, and Snow gets an idea to introduce the other tributes to help the ratings, as the acting in this thing is horrible, while the cinematography is terrible in this movie. Snow gives Lucy Gray some food after she asked him to, and we get a killing from a tribute to their mentor, while the mentor was offering the tribute a drink after tricking her to grab the bottle as the guards shot her to death, which is a violent scene for sure. And that death scene was terrible. While I did I need to know any of this by any means? Absolutely not, as this is an unnecessary prequel with bad acting and done much terribly as and it's done much terribly as I was a little cold on the original movies. Sure, but this is the weakest in the series by far, as I don't like telling the origin story of this of not just the Hunger Games, but Snow as well. Snow meets with Dr. Gowl with a friend of hers, and if his friend dips her hand in the snake pit after she confessed she wrote the new rules on a piece of paper, and she dies from the venom of the snake. While they have different colors, and that scene was dreadful, as the acting again was really bad from Viola Davis, and I expect better from her. The building where the games takes place collapses, and Snow gets trapped by a piece of the building, and Lucy Gray saves his life, and he ends up at the hospital. And that explosion was giving me Aquaman vibes as the explosion randomly happens, and I didn't like it in Aquaman, and I hate it more with this movie. Snow sees on the TV Lucy Gray singing, as lots of people are donating money to Lucy Gray's singing, as it gets up to over 2,000 donations. And again, Rachel Zegler can sing, but again, her performance was horrible in this movie. Snow tells Lucy Gray to not trust anyone during the games, not even her teammate Jessup, as he wants her to win because he falls in love with her, which wasn't earned, as this movie didn't earn that moment in time. We get to part 2, aka the prize, as the games are about to begin and Snow enters the room, a room where Lucky is hosting the Hunger Games, and for the first time, and Sejanus runs out after seeing his tribute Marcus is killed and shouts they're all monsters. And the games begins with a bunch of killings while Lucy Gray hides in a secret hole on the ground with Jessup, while others go after them, but they don't get them as Lucy Gray and Jessup make it out alive. And this is the most violent I've seen in this series, maybe with an exception of the first one, but come on. Snow reaches Sejanus at night while the room is empty for the night, and Snow kills one of the tributes while he is cheating, which is cheating for sure, as he cheats throughout the entire games, and Sejanus' parents comes to the rescue for Sejanus, as he thanks Snow for and visits Dr. Gowl, and she stitches him off, I'm sorry. And I swear, I really do like Viola Davis as she's a tremendous actress, but she was given not too much to do as Snow feels powerful after killing the tribute and confesses that to Tigress. And the talkie scene were too slow for me, as that could have been cut out of the movie. But let's move on. The next day comes and Jessup has rabies of some kind and goes after and briefly attacks Lucy Gray and drops a glass of water to distract Jessup to his death by a drone bringing water there now. Am I the only one who thought drones was a bad idea to begin with? Because they can attack out of the blue, as this was horrendous. Lucy Gray is attacked, and Snow sends out 7 waters to hit the other tributes, and they gather the water while Lucy Gray puts something like pills or mints. I couldn't tell you what that was, as the other tributes attack a woman to kill her off, and Lucy Gray empties out the other bottles of water and hides in a machine that looks like something an airplane? Something like an airplane, I don't know. Would have. And Coral, aka the Brute, I'm gonna call her for the rest of the movie, kills Tanner and goes after the tribute as the germ lady drinks the poisonous water and is killed. And do I care about any of the tributes? Hell no. As I do had to make what they were, which was troubling to me. Because I have a lot of difficulty with names and characters in movies and such. Snow goes to Dr. Gowl because he cuts his stitches off on his own and he sees some songbirds while she gives him a recorder, which will be important a little later in the movie as Dr. Gowl plans on giving the tributes to the snake death while Lucy Gray crawls on the plane and the girl Brute attacks her while the guy Cole falls down out of the blue and Lucy Gray escapes and the helicopter puts the snakes down to kill everyone in the games, and it kills everyone except Lucy Gray as she sings her way out, and Snow wants her out of there. And the crowd chants, let her out, that kind of thing. And Dr. Gowl does decide to let her out, which in my opinion, not the greatest choice, but I mean, it's a way for her to win the Hunger Games, sure, but the scene was not a great choice in my opinion. Casca banishes Snow for cheating in the games while we move on to Part 3, aka The Peacekeeper, where Snow was originally sent to District 8, but he has to go to District 12 to find Lucy Gray, and Sejanus goes on the same train with Snow as he's on the way to District 12, and as they arrive there, they become soldiers, and this is when I'm going to say it has to be cut out of the movie, because like, starting here is where I think this should be in the editing room for the rest of the movie. As I have an hour left into the movie, oh boy, this is going to be a bumpy one. And Sejanus sees a woman whose husband was killed, and Sejanus visits the woman in a prison where she's held captive, and again, cut all this crap out. They go to a bar where Lucy Gray sings at, and she sings in the bar, and eventually she sees Snow after a drunk goes after her for reasons I don't understand. Maybe it was the ex-boyfriend that was brought up earlier. I don't know who that was. And a woman tried to get him out of the way, but he pushes her and a bar fight occurs, and Snow and Sejanus get out of there while the fight is in progress, and he meets her in the forest where she writes songs like the one in Mockingjay Part 1. I can't remember this name. Sorry about that. As he romances her for a little bit. And do I need these scenes? Absolutely not. As this could be in the editing room floor, and I don't care if this was a book. Well, I care about the first 3 books, but I don't know about this prequel being a book. And I don't care for the origins of Snow, and I don't care about how he became evil in the first place. As this movie has plot holes, and it begins here. Snow, Lucy Gray, and others go to the lake and talk about flowers while she brings up a name of a flower called Katniss. And as soon as that was said, the score from Catching Fire came up. Because remember, Katniss was played by Jennifer Lawrence in the first 4 movies, because 3 was cut into 2 parts. And I don't need to be reminded of better movies than this pile of crap. Snow gets moved to a promotion with the train leaving in 10 days, and he calls Tigress and talks with her. And she says she and Granny are fine, while Snow catches Sejanus talking with the prisoner. And Snow records, and this is where the Dr. Gowl's recorder comes in. Snow records what Sejanus said about what their plan is, which is to get out of Pan Am to start a new life. And I'm starting to lose patience with this movie, as this whole hour at District 12 takes too long. It needs to be in the damn editing room floor. Lucy Gray sings, and Snow follows Sejanus to a room where he and others get guns, and he shoots Lucy Gray's ex-boyfriend as well as his girlfriend, aka the mayor of District 12's daughter. And I just don't care about any of this crap, as this third half is frustrating to me. The peacekeepers wake their soldiers up to search for the body of the mayor's daughter's killer, while Lucy Gray is leaving District 12, and Snow decides to go with her by the next day at dawn in the forest, as the actors don't have chemistry with each other. Spruce, as well as Sejanus, get hung for their crimes, but for some reason, not Snow, because he wasn't really involved as that was a plot hole. They really need to cover in the series as Snow gets out of District 12 with Lucy Gray and go to a private house while it's raining. And Snow brings up the fact that he killed 3 people while Lucy Gray has heard about 2 of them, as he didn't bring up who he killed in the Hunger Games. They get to the house, and Snow finds the same guns he used to kill the mayor's daughter and Lucy Gray's ex-boyfriend. And I'm thinking, oh God, Lucy Gray is involved. Like, she wanted them to get killed as she goes out to dig some Katniss. And Snow puts the 2 guns on the boat and tries to find Lucy Gray in the forest as she disappears, sings, and hides while getting a snake to attack Snow, as he was not poisoned for whatever reason, as that was a plot hole never brought up again in the better movies, as Snow puts the guns in the water so he never gets blamed, and he goes back to camp and goes back to the capital and visits Dr. Gell for a brief talking to after about having a Hunger Games every year, as well as Casca with a brief talking to about Sejanus' death, as their friendship and what happened between Casca and Snow's father. And Snow poisons Casca, and he becomes the evil he is in the better movies, as Donald Sutherland says a line he said in the previous movies. And the climax left me very frustrated, and this remaining hour should have been in the damn editing room floor. I mean, my God. Now it's time for my rating. I'll give this movie a 2.0 out of 10. This is the weakest of the Hunger Games series, as the series left me pretty cold and the performances were terrible, even by some good actors like Peter Dinklage, Viola Davis, and to some degree Rachel Zegler, despite she's going through some hate now thanks to the Snow White situation, as this movie doesn't make very good choices, as the cinematography is horrible as well. The third act frustrated the hell out of me, as this movie is way too long at 2.5 hours. And the last hour should have been cut out of the movie, and the ending left me very frustrated to death. But unfortunately, as it has to do the checkmark list of a prequel leading up to better movies than how this turned out, as this led to plot holes. And I don't completely understand why. Like, I don't care for any of these characters, and I don't care for the origin story of how Snow and became evil and how he became in the first place. I don't care about this story. And this needs an hour of editing, like I've just brought up. And this ending is absolutely frustrating so far, all the reasons I brought up. Unfortunately, this is a solid non-recommendation for this movie, as I didn't care. If this was a book, I don't want to see any more as of this story that was given on screen. If there were ever be a sequel to this pile of crap, oh man, I'm gonna have to be there opening weekend, but my goodness gracious, I'm not looking forward to it. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for the return of the Hunger Games, and until then, may the odds be ever in your favor.